All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm Apprentice Greybeard with Tojo, and I'm gonna be here speaking to the Norse pagan side of Jediism. Um, Pull my notes out. So, being Norse pagan, there's a lot of different things that go into it. The first thing that I want to cover is Norse paganism is a very open practice, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, political views, gender, and it's free from any other type of discrimination that we have. One of the hardest things for people to realize, though, sometimes is that they have to keep in mind that although we are an open practice, there's a large portion of what happens that still comes from our personal cultures. As in myself, my dad's side of the family is Danish, Nordic, and Swedish. So even when you're coming into the practice of Norse paganism, be respectful of the symbols, symbologies that go with it, and some of the rituals that we do have that we still know about. Um, Usually I deal a lot with that work, and people hear I'm a Norse pagan, they call me a Viking. That's not true. Vikings were seafarers, traders, raiders. It was a derogatory term used when they went from their homelands to the rest of Europe to explore or expand their cultures. But not everyone in Norse history was considered to be a Viking. Even in Norse paganism, not all of us can be warriors or able to fight. There's farmers, healers, growers, magic users. Um, we have our warriors. The basic part of it is you have to follow who you are. If you're not a fighter, you're a lover, great. Be the lover. If you're a healer and you're not a fighter, be the healer. I am a fighter and I'm a healer, so not only will I gladly engage to do what I need to do, but afterwards I will render aid as appropriate. So when it comes to today's general practices for Norse paganism, you have four basic groups. You have your Rokatu, which is the dark side of Norse paganism, or gods of the underworld. A large portion of that is dealing with the goddess Hel and the afterlife. There's the Vanatu, focusing on the Vanir side of the Aesir and the Vanir gods, predominantly with the Vanir rather than the Aesir. You have your Asatru and Asatru. Asatru is the worship of the Aesir gods primarily, with the Vanir gods as well. And Asatru is your Aesir, Vanir, also your giants, ancestors, and Roka. So you include everyone in the category. And that's where I fall under is Asatru. And that's where being a Northern tradition shaman under Norse paganism gets me to, because I have the ancestors and everything that go along with it. I just lost my phone. So some of the basic principles that we have with Norse paganism is it's common through a lot of different religions. You have the central world tree. We call it Yggdrasil, and that's the world tree for us. That holds the nine different realms that we have. Everything from the primordials to Midgard, which is Earth. We have Asgard, home of the Aesir, Odin, Frigga. That's also where Valhalla is. Alfenheim's land of the Light Elves. We have Svartalfheim, which is the new moon or the wane moon, underground home of the dwarves. Jotunheim is the ice giants, which is depicted as dark forests and mountain peaks in winter that never ends. Vanaheim is home of the Vanir, but the Vanir now live with the Aesir. Niflheim is above the mists. It's the primordial ice world that helped create the known galaxy. Muspelheim is the primordial realm of fire, which was the other half of that. Fire and ice made creation. Then Helheim, or Hell for short, is our underworld ruled by the goddess Hel. And if you're looking at Hell from a Norse pagan point of view, Hell is just basically a continuation of what you're doing here. It's neither bliss nor torment. So you're living basically the same life you are right now. Unlike the Abrahamic religions, or the big three as they're typically called, I've heard a lot in my life. Norse paganism has many gods and goddesses. They have a lot of humanistic traits, flaws, character, personality traits, you name it. They argue, make heirs, and they basically behave the same way we do. Norse deities are not omnipresent or omnipotent, so not all-knowing, all-powerful beings. They do not see everything. They do not hear everything. If you want to draw the attention of one of the gods and goddesses, there are rituals, there are offerings you can make. To give you all an example, I started on this path about 16 years ago, and all the information I have now fits in this little bitty pocket binder. So this is 16 years worth of study, and this is my travel binder that I take with me everywhere. So it's got everything that I need to do right here, and I'm still learning new things. You're never going to find out all of it. I didn't realize when I became Norse pagan, I'd also become a scholar. So depending upon what path you worship, Norse paganism basically falls back to a very animistic worldview. It means that everything has a spirit, everything has an essence. And that is where I found the link to Jediism, was right there. The way the force flows through everything is the same way that the Norse view society. Everything is interconnected with each other. So regardless of what power we call it, it's in both sides, which is really beneficial. I was further intrigued by the link between what Norse pagans called the Weird. If you've never heard of that term before, it's spelled W-Y-R-D. It's a very basic symbol. I'll show it here because I'm a dork. The Weird is 9 staves, 3 vertical, 3 side, and 3 side. From this basic symbol, we can create any one of our runes that we use for runic magic, naming, alphabet, writing, whatever it is. But the Weird is a symbol and concept that roughly corresponds to fate and personal destiny, much like the Force. The Weird is seen over by what's called the Norns. Traditionally, the Norns are known as 3 sisters, but that's not true. The Norns come from every realm to oversee the weave of fate. But there are 3 of them that oversee, pretty much the overseers of it. They are Urder, which is the past, Verdandi, what is presently coming into being, and Skuld is what shall be. If you think of the 3 crones when it comes to witchcraft, you have the crone, the mother, and the daughter, the 3 different aspects of it. The Weird is woven throughout time, and everyone's fate is intertwined into the Weird. Even the Aesir gods, the Vanir gods, no one has access to know what's going to happen. It's guided by the Norns. So when the Norns are sitting there with essentially what is the Force and they're weaving everything together, you're following essentially what fate is. So you have to have some kind of trust in the process. Qui-Gon Jinn uses it as the living force. Always be present of the here and now and what's going on. Don't worry about what's been. Don't worry about what's going to be. Look here and now. We can move forward with the here and now. Because if you're not focused here and now, you can miss what's happening right in front of you. So even like the Norns and the 3 sisters that oversee it, they also keep Yggdrasil's roots watered and free of rot. So when they stop tending to the world tree, will be the end of creation as we know it. In Star Wars canon, there's been references to what's known as the Guardians of Power, the 3. There's the father, the daughter, and the son, the 3 aspects. The father is the balance in between, the daughter is the light side of the Force, and the son is the dark side of the Force. The same way with the Norns. There's that balance at all time that has to be maintained between knowing what's going to happen and having the ability to influence it to a certain level. So even for me being Norse pagan, the balance and the animistic side of it is very important, which is great because the temple in Jediism really lines up with that. You have your light side, your dark side. So you have your Jedi, your Sith, your gray Jedi, whatever you want to call them, whatever the different positions are. They are all linked together and they're all sitting on that force of balance. For a Norse pagan to lose ourselves in the animalistic forces, we can become very less than human. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the tales of berserkers, the gentlemen who get so enraged in combat they go in and they kill everything in sight. That's allies, enemies, it doesn't matter. You turn these guys loose and they just tear into it. On the other side, if you inflate your over self-worth and you don't do anything for the community, then you become a burden on the community, and therefore community has a right to turn their back on you. Norse pagans follow what we call the 9 noble virtues, but there's 9 noble virtues, the 9 charges, the 6-fold gold, Assyrian code. The 9 noble virtues were developed by a gentleman called John Yowell, aka Stubba, and John Gibbs Bailey of the Odinistic Rite in 1974. And while I do not agree that it came from a former member of Sir Oswald Mausley's British Union of Fascists and National Socialists, you can find all of the Nine Noble Virtues in the Hamval and the Volspa. For the Nine Noble Virtues, if you sit down and you actually go through them, and I'll read them here to you real quick. We have courage. I face my fear and decide my family and my kindred from all dangers. I have discipline. I do what is necessary and right of my own accord without bribe or threat. Fidelity. I'm true to my family, friend, and kindred, and to those I pledge my service. Honor. I stand by my oaths in honor of my ancestors by keeping my name pure among the kindred. Hospitality. I share the hearth, food, and drink with my friends, my kindred, and weary travelers at my door. Industriousness. I take joy in labor and hold nothing back in the work I am pledged to do. Perseverance. I press on against all odds until my goal is met and the task is finished. Self-reliance. I learn still and grow strong so that I may earn my way in the world and be no burden to others. Then truth. I seek the truth even though it may be a hard truth. I speak true words or stand in silence, and I defend the truth from those who do not honor it. If you look at Tojo, there's the 21 different maximums as well that come into play, and a lot of the Nine Noble Virtues are direct translations to the 21 maximums. There's a couple maximums that can fit into one of the Noble Virtues, which is great. It's very easy to understand and move back and forth with them. When it comes to being a Norse Jedi, and this is just from my perspective, the link that we have, be it whatever you call it, be it the weird as we call it, was the Force, the unifying destiny, whatever it is, I have to be able to give myself to that, to know that what's going to happen is going to happen, and I can't change what's going to happen if I don't pay attention to the here and now. To be a warrior and a service member, and having been through what I've been through and seen what I've seen in my career, I've seen some of the worst of humanity and I've seen some of the best of humanity. I have to keep that faith that what I'm seeing is there to build me stronger. I can't let any one incident tear me down, break me down, rip me apart, because afterwards I still have to persevere. I still have to have that self-reliance. I still have to have the honor and the fidelity to do what I need to do with my day-to-day job. For me, the link with Jediism was very simple. There was nothing complicated about it. I searched a lot of different websites, came across a lot of different Jedi academies and organizations and groups, and I eventually settled with Tojo because I like the way it was set up. I like the organization of it, and for my OCD mind, that really does play wonders. But to be a Norse pagan Jedi, it's very simple to walk the path. The biggest thing I have to keep in mind when I'm doing this is not everyone has my same views. Not everyone has the same determination, reliance. Essentially, what is boiled down to is the self-confidence that I have learned here with the temple that's helped me grow better. I've learned more from y'all than I have in my 16 years of study. Even my training master, Silvermane, mad props to him. He's giving me my lessons in a timely manner, and I'm great. I'm loving them. I haven't seen any problems with it. I'm looking deeper and deeper into my own faith, which is great. The lessons that I went through in Tojo taught me more about myself, because I'm going to be upfront, really honest about it. I don't get anything out of it if I sugarcoat stuff or just put the bare minimum amount of work into it. Is there anything else I need to cover for y'all? I don't think that was about it. So the biggest thing for this is if you guys have any questions or want to talk about anything specific, practices, procedures, what we view as magic practitioners and the different styles that we have, we can cover all that as well. Do y'all have any questions for Norse Pagan Jedi? Bueller? Anybody? Master Ross, what do you got?
I was just gonna say, I thought it was interesting your idea of heaven and hell, and it's just a continuation of what we're doing here.
Mhm.
That's an interesting idea.
So even in the afterlife, so a lot of people see Norse pagans as, you're going to die and go to Valhalla. Well, that's not necessarily true. The Valkyries, when they scoured the battlefields, would take the first souls to Odin's wife. She gets first rights of the slain. Odin gets the second right. So going to Valhalla is actually, I guess, the silver medal of it. You want to look at it that way? But there's also other halls you can serve of the gods. Prime example, let me open my little binder here, is no, it's at the end here. So all the different gods have halls. Thor has what's called termed as lightning crackle. Um, the largest of the buildings contains 540 rooms. There's one that belongs to Balder. It's a place where nothing unclean can dwell. It's also said to have the fewest baneful runes, and nothing evil may enter. You can go to Hell has her own hall that oversees the thresholds and the guardianship of the afterlife. Uller has one that's a garden where he makes the bows. Gladheim is a realm in Asgard that belongs to Odin's Valhalla. Heimdall has a castle tower, his own hall right at the top of the Bifrost that keeps watch over the Asgard plane and the cosmos. So it's not so much that you have to die and go to Valhalla, or you have to die and go to his wife's hall. If you've earned the attention and respect of whatever god you're working with, they can take you to their hall. So there's more than one place you can go. It's not so much heaven and hell, eternal bliss or eternal torment. I would be happy tending to the field of Vidar, the silent god, where no words are allowed to be spoken. But it's a beautiful open field full of wildflowers, bees, and wildlife. But Vidar is also known as the god of retribution and justice. So he is very much the right hand executioner of Odin. But his location is quiet, it's peaceful, it's serene. So there's a dualistic to each side. All right, you got something else, Master Ross?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, Tavi, welcome back.
Hi. So I have a lot of questions, but
Okay,
so you are a yellow saber wielding person too.
correct.
I am curious if you have thought about the color of your saber, um, and how it relates to your path in Norse pagan Jediism.
Okay. So I favor the yellow saber. One, because the yellow saber is traditionally associated with the temple guardians, those who stand in the way to protect others, and that's how I've always lived my life. People have told me I'm very protective of my wife. Well, yes, I am. Not because she can't take care of herself. It's just because she's very important to me. Same with my children. I've always heard that, hell hath no fury. Well, there's no fury as to a father who was going to take what he deserves back from people. So for me to carry the yellow lightsaber is one, it's the temple guardian. So I stand between harm and other people. For me as well, the yellow is very symbolic of sunshine on a rainy day. It's the symbol of hope and something better to come along. So every time I ignite it, I always think of sunshine on a rainy day. You get that one burst of sunshine, that yellow light comes through, that beam that shines down, and here's a great spot to sit. You see it in the movies. We see it in cartoons when the angelic choir starts singing, and here it is. So yeah, I carry it because yellow brings me hope.
How would you approach somebody who said you can't be Jedi because you're Norse?
So the approaching conversation would be, first off, is why? Why can I not be? What gives them the
Uh,
right to tell me I can't be something?
That's fair.
Is there a particular god or goddess that you feel like you really connect with, especially as you've been working through your Jedi path?
So even before the Jedi path, of course, I appreciate Thor because he's a protector of Midgard and protector of children, Um, but when it comes to the individual gods themselves, I've always been drawn to Uller, who is he's got a lot of different things, but he's one of the least known gods, but he's also the one who sits in Odin's throne and keeps protection of Asgard while he's gone. He is kind of a secondary god. Very little is known about him. He's the god of the hunt, single combat, justice. And on the flip side, I also like Vidar. He's the silent god. He's the god of retribution. He's the god who will stand up when no one else will, and he's the god who will do what no one else will that needs to be done. If you look at the tale of Tyr as well, when it comes down to what he did when they bound the Great Wolf Fenrir, uh, they tried to bind him twice, and finally they got the final binding on him. But in order for them to test it on Fenrir, someone had to put their hand in his mouth, and Tyr stood up, walked right up there, and gave him his sword hand. So Tyr is also known as the one-handed god. So he's the god that made the ultimate sacrifice. And I didn't really think much about it before coming to the temple, but now that I'm going through everything, yeah, I've gotten actually a deeper connection with all three of them, with Tyr, Uller, and Vidar.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Go for it.
How do you incorporate those three into your like daily practice? Do you have any kind of like meditations or journaling, or just like something that you do to really connect with those three and also connect with Jediism at the same time? Like, what is your practice with them?
Okay, so Vidar is known as the silent god. He's one of the sons of Odin. So he's the god of silence, stealth, and revenge. And he is a lesson for every day in my life because I have a mouth. If those of you who don't know me or never talked to me before, I'm smart aleck. I am the first guy to chime in. I'm the first guy to stand up and say, this is not right. He has taught me how to be silent and listen to people. So he is a daily lesson that I take into every meeting. It's one of those, do I need to interact or do I need to sit back and see how it plays out? Tyr is the bow god, god of the hunt. He's a stepson to Thor. He's a warrior invoked in combat by men, great archer, fair skier, is almost unknown by myth. For him, incorporating him into my everyday life meditations, it's sitting back and looking at things from a leadership perspective. If I'm the only guy in the room and I'm the guy there with the highest authority, what do I need to do right now at this moment to make sure everything's taken care of, our people are taken care of, and everything's moving along in the right path? So along with Vidar and being silent listening, Uller gives me that opportunity to sit back and okay, let's review what's going on. Let's take a look at what's actually happening. Give me the black and white, because everyone's ever had an argument before and knows there's three sides to an argument. You have person A, you have person B, and then you have the right side. And it's sometimes sitting back, listening to that, sitting in that leadership position, trying to look at it, trying to find the common ground. And that's where Tyr comes in. Tyr is one of the gods of justice, along with Foresti. He's the god of law and justice, rational thought, right order, protection, and among many others. So that's where that plays into a fact. So it's actually all three are in my daily interactions, and it means a lot to me because using Uller, the sitting back and examining what's going on, using Vidar to be a silent god and actually listen to what's happening and seeing what's happening in front of me, then to use the god of rational thought, right order, law, and justice is huge. Anyone that's ever been in a leadership position in any company, organization, military, whatever have you, know that what you say has impact. If I go into a job or a site or a command, I say, this is what needs to be done, just by positional power alone, a lot of people will take that almost as gospel, essentially, and they will start running with what I say. So I have to be very careful at all times how I speak and what I say to people. Does that make sense?
is there anything in I guess Norse pagan that you think conflicts with the Jedi path?
Yes. So for me, the Jedi path is one of non-conflict to begin with. It's always, all right, let's sit down, let's figure out what's going on, and we'll try and discuss that. In Norse pagan beliefs, even in the culture, we actually have trial by combat. So if I don't like what you said and you've insulted me, I can take you to combat. We'll see who's going to be right. It's kind of it's more of an internal thing. Do I really want to pick the fight? So I have to be very careful because my Norse pagan side sometimes says, get them, hands down, just go get them. The Jedi side says, okay, hang on, you knuckle dragon here. Let's just figure this out before we go hurt someone and get thrown in jail for the night. And that's when the Norse side comes back and says, yeah, okay, I'll wait. So yeah, I'm not opposed to raising a fist or getting into an altercation if needs be, but that's not the Jedi way. So some ways it has made me much better.
Is it cool if I jump in?
Go for it.
So what are your thoughts on tricksters, and what do you feel like their value is, not just to Norse paganism, but also in like a broader sense, like when it comes to Jediism? Do you think that's something that we experience in this community, or we experience within ourselves?
So the tricksters in Norse paganism, as we talked about before, is Loki. Those of you that don't know, Marvel depicted him as an ice Jotun. He's not. In Norse legend, he's actually a fire elemental, so he has the red hair is the reason why. Loki is the trickster. Native Americans have the coyote. The tricksters are there to teach us that we can't be so high and mighty for everything. We have to understand that we all have flaws. We all have vanities. Loki shaved the head of Sif, took away her golden hair, but then he made retribution afterwards and got the dwarves to make her a mane of gold till her hair grew back. So she actually was wearing gold on her head that was so fine it was like hair. The trickster is pivotal in any faith that you have, even in Jediism. But the trickster for Jediism is going to be you. You're going to be your own trickster, because you have to be able to take a look at your own flaws. You have to be able to take a look at what makes you who you are and where you're going to fail, so you can build yourself up stronger on the backside. Loki is just one of many you can use for tricksters. You see it in Jediism. You see it in the movies all the time. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a little bit of a trickster when he was talking with Anakin, kind of trying to direct him down a path or make him do something the way they picked on each other. I think episode 3 is a good example when they land on Coruscant with the Supreme Chancellor. Obi-Wan makes a comment, I've saved you this many times. No, I've saved you this many. And he goes, no. That one time in that pit didn't count. He's trying to downplay what happened, that he made a mistake and someone had to save him. But the tricksters are key because we have to know our flaws. If we don't know our flaws, we can't build ourselves up stronger. We can't build ourselves up stronger. We don't grow. So be your own trickster. Learn your flaws and weaknesses. Play with them a little bit. See how far you can get with them. If you can build yourself up afterwards, that's key. If you can't face yourself and you have to run, then that's a whole different story.
For people that are going to follow, I guess, both paths, would you say, or I guess for you, would you say that you're a Jedi first, then a Norse pagan second? Like, how do you balance both if there's certain areas where they conflict?
So regardless of conflicting beliefs, if I'm going to identify as both, I've got to meld both of them together. To be pagan is I have the many gods instead of one. My gods are not omnipresent, not omnipotent, and not all-knowing and all-powerful, just like me. So I'm learning a lesson from them there. But to blend the meditation styles in from the Jedi path also brings that back to my Norse pagan roots. I learned meditation techniques here that I never thought of before. For a large portion of it, if you're going to have the dual views, you have to have them make sense. And like I've told people before, when you're doing anything with any faith, if it doesn't make sense here, then you've already lost. If it doesn't make sense here, then it's not for you. And if these two don't correlate, then you can't live the path. So I can live the path of the Jedi by following the Jedi codes, or the Grey Jedi code as I prefer. It's easy to correlate that, and it's easy to bring that back to the 9 noble virtues of the Hamval and the Volspa, which, by the way, is only a book about this big. It's a little pocket guide. It fits in my pocket. So that's everything I need right there, outside of the Poetic Edda and the Poetic Pose, which is just the tales and the poems of the bards back then. But yeah, if you're trying to meld both paths and it's not making both senses up here and here, then it's not for you. It's very simply put.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I guess I'll go with my final question.
Go for it.
What is some advice you would give someone who wants to embark on being a Norse Jedi, especially when it comes to that want to attack and protect instead of coming back to calm, looking at that emotion yet peace, or there is no emotion peace?
So for the Norse pagan to pull back from the want to attack and the aggression is, first you have to ask yourself, is this what I truly need to do? And that's where the Jedi path does help play a large factor in that. Because if we look at the Jedi code as in our doctrine, there is emotion, there is no emotion, there is peace. So for me to outwardly lash out at someone would be unwarranted because I'm having an emotional response rather than an intellectual response. There's no ignorance, there is knowledge. I can't make a determination on something that I need to be aggressive towards until I know what's actually happening. Passion, serenity, chaos, harmony, death in the force. It's the code really does play a lot into the Nordic and Norse pagan side of it, because once I act, I cannot take an act back. I cannot undo harm to someone else. So being able to determine at the moment, is this what's actually needed, is key. I will say, for anyone that's going to try and correlate Norse paganism to Jediism, you have to take a long, hard look at which gods you prefer, which gods you identify with, which gods you feel relations to and connected to. Luckily, I identify with Odin. I love being a scholar. I love learning. I love reading as much as I can. I don't know if you all see this little bitty bookshelf behind me, but that's one of several that I have here in my office and my Transformer collection. And there's 3 more of those tall ones sitting back here in my closet, full of books. So I spend a large portion of my free time in study, a large portion of my free time in reading. I gather knowledge further than I can care to do anyone else. I will say, if you're going to take on the Nordic path, the Norse pagan path, there is something I would recommend that you do, and it's you start something that's identified as a book of wisdom, or my grandfather called it a man book. Obviously, he was a man, but let me find one of mine here. Essentially, what the book is you write down tidbits of wisdom that you pick up from here and there. And this is one of volume 3. I'm working on volume 3 right now. It can be anything from inspirational to funny, humorous, whatever you want. One of my favorite phrases in life is, "No man stands taller than when he stoops to help a child." That's from Lincoln. But on the same page, right here in the front of the book, I've got, "Life is a waste of time. Time is a waste of life. So let's get wasted all the time and have the time of our life." From Billy Connolly. So, you can take wisdom from anything you want, anywhere you want to, but if you're not actively working to learn it, keep it, and store it, then the Norse pagan path is probably not for you, because it's accumulation of knowledge, of wisdom from times past. I have studied everything from Greco-Roman theories and rituals and practices. I don't know if you know this, but you can look it up. The sun cross, the circle cross with the 4 equal sides on it, goes from Mesopotamia all the way over to the Celtic empires and Native American empires of cultures that never talked before. So its symbology is there. It's connected to everyone. It's not just to one region. So you have to understand that when studying something, you're gonna realize, a little bit more. So it really depends where you draw your wisdom from. But if you're going to study paganism, you have got to search for wisdom. You can't just, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to be aggressive because this is what it is. Odin, Valhalla. Yeah. No, it's not what it's about. It's about the pursuit of knowledge in all things. So, and that's a good thing here about Jediism, is it's that neutral ground to look at everything without taking it personally. So it's really nice to see that there's a common ground where a lot of other faiths can come to in one centralized point and talk about everything that's encompassing every faith that we know. I don't know too many Norse pagans in the temple. I think I know me and Silvermane. I don't know many other people I've seen. I haven't seen any of the knights that identify as Norse pagan, but if anyone's ever willing to talk about it, DM me directly. Greybeard, you can find me. And yes, that's why I'm called Greybeard. My wife decided to get me name tapes for Christmas, put on my tactical binder that say Greybeard. So I've been permanently labeled on my base.